Hey, come see us do stand-up comedy in Tempe, Arizona, Columbus, Ohio, Dayton, Cincinnati, Lexington, Burbank, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. Want to hear about another scam? We've talked about this. The recycling industry is a scam.
Oh, don't tell me that.
So even though I still have a blue garbage can and a black garbage can and a green garbage can, it's all garbage.
Yeah,
Turns out it's all garbage.
I used to work in recycling, and I've known this for now going on 20 years.
And now in California, you're supposed to have a compost.
Even PBS is reporting it now. The plastic industry knowingly pushed recycling myth for decades.
You don't say. I mean, I don't want to say I hate America, but I mean, I'm getting sick of this, where this PBS is breaking some news we already knew for many years.
So I've been reporting
news.
I've been reporting.
This is olds.
I've been reporting this since I was at the Young Turks in 2015. I've been reporting this.
Yeah, it's olds. This is not news.
But actually, this is even from March 16th. So let's listen to the report.
On average, the world produces 430 million metric tons of plastic every year. The United States alone produces tens of millions of tons of plastic waste annually. Yet, on average in the United States, only about 5 to 6% of plastic is recycled. Ali Rogan digs into a new report covering the plastic industry's tactics to push recycling and avoid regulation.
A new report by the Center for Climate Integrity, an environmentalist group.
Oh, my dear God. Okay, sorry.
This woman, she looks like she's doing a sketch. She does. She looks like she's doing a comedy sketch. She looks like a comedian from Saturday Night Live or something, but she's not. She's actually on PBS. But I can't help it. There's something about her that makes me.
All the news people are actors, and on PBS they have like uglier actors. It's all it is. None of them are journalists.
I'm saying she looks like a comedian. She reminds me of. I'm not saying she's not attractive. I'm saying she reminds me. I just feel like that's a comedian. But here we go.
She would take it as unattractive. That is what that means.
Newly uncovered statements from oil and plastics executives underscore the industry's decades-long secret skepticism about the viability and efficacy of recycling. The authors of the report reviewed old investigations and new documents, including previously unknown assertions from industry executives. In 1994, one Exxon chemical executive put the industry's support for plastics recycling in blunt terms, saying, quote, "We are committed to the activities, but not committed to the results." Another representative from DuPont noted in 1992 that recycling goals were set knowing full well, quote, "they were unlikely to meet them." Michael Copley is a correspondent covering climate issues for NPR. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Some of these quotes that are in this report are very blunt. They might be shocking to some, but you've been covering these issues for a long time. Were you surprised by anything that's in this new report?
Yeah, I think what's in the report echoes a lot of what we've been seeing from previous investigations, and that is that the plastics industry pushed recycling as a solution, even though industry officials have known for a long time that it wasn't going to be viable at scale, or that they had serious doubts about its ability to be viable at scale. What we've seen is that they really looked at recycling as a way to kind of fend off regulation and to keep selling more plastic. And so we've known about that. I think it's always striking when you see.
So they're using recycling to fend off regulation. They say, "Oh, look, we're recycling it." So wow. so they don't regulate the amount of plastic they're producing.
I like how the climate change scam is reporting on the recycling scam. You'll see that climate integrity. You just uncover that? The good folks at climate integrity just figured out that this was a scam.
If climate change turns out to be exactly how John Kerry says it is, I'll eat my hat. Here we go.
Well, it already hasn't. It already hasn't several times.
He's already been
never
wrong.
Mind. Then he said, "Look, I lived in fear from the predictions of climate change for many years. Jehovah's Witnesses only predicted the end of the world one goddamn time.
I know. Okay.
So I don't need to hear anything else. You're wrong. Your computer model sucks. Your indicators don't work.
It's all models.
And now, because they want you to not have stuff anymore as part of a larger plan, now they're going to tell you recycling does. I've known it doesn't work for longer than either of these two assholes have been alive.
Okay, let's watch.
New statements, new quotes, and to see the way in which they really seem to view recycling as sort of, a public relations tool as opposed to an environmental tool that they sort of presented publicly.
Many of the most eyebrow-raising quotes from this report are 10, 20, even 30 years old. If they're so old, why should we be paying attention to them today?
So right now, what the industry is saying is the focus on these comments doesn't accurately reflect where the industry is today. And so what it's asking for is sort of the public to trust it, that it's working on this new technology that is going to solve the problem of plastic waste now. And I think that the historical record sort of undercuts public trust in the industry and raises questions about those assertions now. I think the other reason why this matters is it could potentially be legally problematic for the industry. And by that, I mean the oil and gas industry right now is facing dozens of lawsuits from states and localities based in part on statements it made about climate change and fossil fuel going back decades. We know that the state of California has opened an investigation into the role of oil and gas companies in the petrochemical industry in kind of the creation of the plastic waste crisis that we're facing. And the group that put out the report, the Center for Climate Integrity, was upfront saying that it was compiling this to serve as kind of the fact basis or the basis of evidence for potential legal action.
I want to read a response we got from a plastics trade group called America's Plastic Makers. Their president accused this report and the authors of it of citing, quote, outdated, decades-old technologies, and says it's mischaracterizing the current state of the industry, as you were just talking about. This group also says that plastic makers are looking to have all plastic packaging be, quote, reused, recycled, and recovered
by 2040.
So you just mentioned this, but where does plastics recycling technology stand right now? How advanced is that technology?
So the industry has presented advanced recycling, chemical recycling as a real solution. There is deep skepticism of it, and not just from sort of environmentalists who you'll talk to, but
right. And I should note here, Michael, that advanced recycling is actually a term of art that is used among the plastics industry to describe the current state of this
advanced recycling.
Yeah, that's right. And so as opposed to sort of traditional mechanical recycling, what they're doing now is turning plastics sort of back into liquids and gases to sort of reuse. The skepticism comes from questions about, has anything about the economics of recycling changed? If in the past it was cheaper to make new plastic, why is that not still the case, especially when you see low oil and gas prices? And the other piece of it is plastic degrades over time. And so what scientists say is that there are just limits to how many times you can reuse plastics. So there is deep skepticism.
What does your reporting say about this claim that all plastics will be recyclable by the year 2040?
Obviously, the industry has put out this promise. I think that its critics will say we've been hearing these promises or promises like it for decades now, and that there's nothing in the record to think that now is any different.
Is there a solution here that climate activists and environmental experts agree on that actually includes recycling? Or is there consensus among that side of the issue that stakeholders need to be looking at solutions beyond recycling? That recycling is not the be-all, end-all to avert the climate crisis that experts will point to and say we're in.
There's a recognition that plastic is so ingrained in modern life, and it plays important roles in medical devices and other things, that it's almost impossible to envision a world where we move completely beyond plastic. I think what people are talking about is reducing plastic production to a level that is more manageable with kind of recycling systems, getting rid of types of plastic that are especially hard to recycle, you can't recycle, being more transparent about what chemicals go into this stuff that, again, make recycling hard. But it really does come down to, when you talk to not just activists, but also businesses increasingly, that regulation is going to play a big role. And so that, there was a hearing in the Senate, and the head of S.C. Johnson, a big consumer goods company, said something to the effect of, we need government regulation. Businesses can't do this on their own. And I think, again, that gets back in large part to the economics of this. If companies don't have to deal with these costs, it's hard to imagine that they will, in sort of a sustained way, create systems to deal with this if they don't have to.
Okay, you know what this is, Jimmy? This is a paid advertisement from the Center for Climate Integrity. Do you know what that's from?
No.
That's the Rockefeller family.
Really?
So the Rockefellers want you to use less plastics. Now they've decided. They funded this. The other dipshit, this guy Christopher Hone from England, he helps the Extinction Rebellion. The people that throw orange paint on the art. So all this is when she said stakeholders, okay, that's how you know PBS is not public. It's just garbage. PBS News is garbage. They read a script for an advertisement given to them by the Rockefeller Foundation, who I would like, and I'm just saying this, I'm sure Trump won't do it, but I would like them ground up like plastic.
Well, let's see. Here. Around the world, 1 million plastic bottles are purchased every minute.
Oh, no. I'm upset that around the world there's still Rockefellers exerting influence on anything. That's worse than any plastic. The Rockefeller family has done more damage to every aspect of your life than any plastic ever did. And I include the microplastics that are shrinking the children's taints.
That's like a trillion. That's over 1 trillion plastic bottles a day, right? If it's 60 million an hour.
It's just one business
yes,
wants to kill
that
another
is.
Business. One massive oligarch is fighting another
that's
oligarch.
over. No, that's a billion. So 60 million. So that's over 1 billion a day. So that's like 1.5 billion plastic bottles are purchased a day. 1.5 billion. I think my math is not great. Half of all plastics ever manufactured have been made in the last 20 years. Did you know that? Production increased exponentially from 2.3 million tons in 1950 to 448 million tons by 2015. The future is plastics. I saw that in The Graduate.
And it was true.
And it was true.
Again,
plastics.
National Geographic, I promise you they're putting this out there because the Rockefeller Foundation paid them to put this out there. So Rockefellers are invested in something else. That's all this means.
Yeah.
None of this has to do, none of them care about your life. This is old news, okay? So the reason they're saying it now is because some very rich people are trying to get rid of some other very rich people. Those are the titans. You're nothing. You might as well be plastic. You're plastic to be ground up, maybe not even recycled, just shipped to China.
Listen to how they say this, Kurt. They go, every year about 8 million tons of plastic waste escapes into the oceans. It escaped. You mean it picked a lock and it broke out of prison? It escapes.
Is it leaking out of my taint when I go to the beach?
It escapes. Yeah. That's the equivalent of setting 5 garbage bags full of trash on every foot of coastline around the world.
I don't care. I just I'm so sick of all the things that are supposed to be like a journalist or a science magazine are bought out by some rich asshole to attack some other rich asshole. Not all of them would prefer you died. If plastic killed half the population, they'd be delighted. There wouldn't even be this story. But it hasn't killed us fast enough.
California now accuses ExxonMobil of lying about plastics being recycled.
Why?
This is from September 23rd. The state alleges that the oil company deceived the public to convince us that plastic recycling could solve the plastic waste and pollution crisis. The state of California sued ExxonMobil on Monday, accusing the oil giant of misleading the public about the effectiveness of plastic recycling and contributing to the flood of bottles, bags, and wrappers polluting waterways in the state and worldwide. In the first lawsuit of its kind, California Attorney General Rob Bonta alleged that did you know that he's our Attorney General? I didn't. ExxonMobil has engaged in a decades-long campaign of deception that caused and exacerbated the global plastics pollution crisis. ExxonMobil is a major producer of the synthetic substances used to make plastics. The lawsuit seeks to hold the oil titan accountable for allegedly falsely promoting all plastics as recyclable. There is nothing.
They are recyclable. They just don't because you don't make money on it. So the ones that they recycle are the ones that are kind of like heavy plastic. It's not that they're not recyclable. It's not cost effective and they would lose money doing it. So it's not that they're not recyclable. That's bullshit.
Some recent estimates suggest that only a small fraction of the plastic produced gets recycled, about 9% worldwide, and about 5 to 6% in the United States. For decades, ExxonMobil has been deceiving the public to convince us that plastic recycling could solve the plastic waste and pollution crises when they clearly knew this wasn't possible, said the Attorney General. ExxonMobil lied to further its record-breaking profits. Who would have thought? At the expense
what about BP and all the other oil companies? Why is it just Exxon? They're all involved in it. They all got together, and the memo is really funny. There's a memo I told you about years ago when I first saw the show about, people feel like they're doing. Remember the crying native commercial?
That's right.
And that guy isn't even Indian, by the way. He's Italian. Ionized Cody wasn't Indian. That was paid for by the petroleum companies. It wasn't just Exxon. I don't know why they're focused on just Exxon, but that's how you know it's bullshit.
So during a news conference Monday, the Attorney General said his lawsuit, in part demanding ExxonMobil put money into a fund to the tune of billions of dollars to abate the harm caused by their deceit, their lying, their perpetuation of the myth of recycling. The money, he said, could go toward public education about recycling, as well as research and development into ways to effectively recycle plastics. The lawsuit is also seeking other remedies, including civil. What the F? But his office said the case marks the first attempt by a U.S. government official to hold an oil and gas company accountable for misleading claims about plastics. 4 environmental groups also filed their own lawsuit on Monday that lodged similar complaints against ExxonMobil.
Wow.
ExxonMobil defended itself. It said for decades, California Officials have
True.
known their recycling system isn't effective. Who said that? ExxonMobil state. They failed to act, and now they seek to blame others. Instead of suing us, they could have worked with us to fix the problem and keep plastic out of landfills.
They were working on technology to make it where landfills, the pressure from the landfills generates energy, and that was just killed. You know that?
No, I didn't know
That was
that.
the thing years ago they were working on. There's all these great ideas that were just killed by all these assholes for business interests.
The legal. Go ahead.
Yeah. There was a thing where you could recycle through pigs. Pigs will eat absolutely anything.
Yeah.
And there was and my dad, I told you my family worked in that business. That's another type, went nowhere because some powerful people didn't want it. Right now, obviously, somebody in the Rockefeller family has an issue with someone at Exxon. That's all this is. None of this is about the public. Of course, this is the first time because some rich assholes pay the same way George Soros paid DAs not to prosecute violent crimes. It's the same bullshit.
A 147-page complaint alleges the company's efforts to push plastics recycling violate a bevy of state laws, including water pollution, unfair competition, and false advertisement. The company, the lawsuit states, promoted the widely known chasing arrow symbol on plastics, despite
the
knowing
swastika?
that
The
it was
recycling swastika?
was deceiving the public into thinking that all plastics are recyclable. The suit also accused ExxonMobil of making misleading claims about its advanced recycling program, which the company has allegedly promoted as a breakthrough in technology that will make plastics sustainable, but hides important truths about its technical limitations. More than 90% of plastic waste processed by ExxonMobil allegedly becomes fuel instead of recycled plastic, according to the suit. The legal action comes amid a broader effort to stem the deluge of plastic that ends up in the environment. A recent study found Earth's oceans contain more than 170 trillion pieces of plastic. The material can also break down into microplastics or nanoplastics that can enter the human blood, lungs, and other organs. Chrissy Levitt, she's a plastics campaign director for Oceana, an international advocacy group, applauded Bonta. She said, recycling is like trying to mop water from an overflowing bathtub while the faucet is still running. We need to turn off the faucet and reduce the production of single-use plastic. So let's start this. I think we should just start this segment.
Wait, Oceana is the Ghislaine Maxwell. That's related to Ghislaine Maxwell.
No kidding?
Yeah, wait a minute.
So we've been covering this for a while. Your recycling is a scam, just so you know.
Oh, another Rockefellers group. So this is all Rockefellers. This is all the Rockefellers.
Oh, really?
Yep. It's unbelievable, dude. Nothing gets done unless. So by the way, the thing where the microplastics go into your body, they've known this for many, 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 many years. Okay, so they didn't give a shit. If you live in LA and you're sorting your recycling, just so you know, it all goes to the same dump. I know that for a fact.
It all goes to the same hole.
Yeah, they're not recycling it. And I've told it to people, especially girls really wanted to believe in recycling the most. I don't know why. It's like a rosary to a fucking Catholic, but and my ex-girlfriend, I go, they're just throwing it in the dump. And she goes, well, I separate it so the homeless can sort through it. I'm like, I guess you can still recycle. You got me. But people don't want to, dude, recycling has been bullshit since I was a teenager. And I would watch people just really want to believe in it because it's such a nonsense ritual that makes you feel like you did something. You did nothing.
In New York, they would fine you if you didn't recycle, right, Kurt?
Guess what? I mixed it all the time. They didn't do shit.
Oh, okay.
They don't stop you. Dude, some open micer who made a documentary about the open mic scene in LA, this maniac guy hit her in the head with a metal thermos and gave her concussion. They got in his car and drove away smashing cars on the way out, and the cops go, those are all misdemeanors. We can't do anything. You have to go. Listen, California is a wasteland. It's a wasteland. It's going to get a lot worse. You could steal under $1,000. You could just steal. You could hit someone in the head with a metal thermos and give them a concussion. If you don't stay at the scene, you're not going in. That's all on you to go to court.
I know. I had a guy at my house with a gun, and the cops didn't show up for an hour. Like,
dude,
what are they doing?
If somebody show up with a gun, I'm going to have a gun.
That's right.
I live in Texas.
Now you got to have a gun.
I've never wanted to have a gun in my whole life.
Me neither.
I like shooting them. Never felt the need to own it. Totally getting a gun.
Hey, come see us do stand-up comedy in Tempe, Arizona, Columbus, Ohio, Dayton, Cincinnati, Lexington, Burbank, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.